Hey everybody, this is Erica, the technology nerd who likes to film stuff, and I've got the Galaxy Note 3 right here next to my Galaxy Note 2. What I want to do right now is a little bit of a first impressions before I have a chance to look into everything and do my full hour-long review of this guy. Yes, that is coming. I will be doing a full hour-long review for the Galaxy Note 3. First of all, I have to thank everybody for letting me know what these guys are. I thank all 3,000 of you for telling me that these are replacement tips for the stylus, along with a little grabber tool, so that was quite useful. It was cute to see 3,000 of you respond. Some of you responded on Facebook, by my personal email, on Twitter, and then of course in the video. So thanks! That was very, very nice of you all. Some of you did not like the style of video that I did last time where I filmed the unboxing on the Galaxy Note 2 here. I was really not feeling good that day, so I thank you all for being very kind about that and just interacting with me the same. So moving on now, this lovely girl right here is Josie. I did have a gray Galaxy Note 2 I called Jose, just the first name that popped out on the top of my head, and unfortunately I dropped Jose on the pavement in France and cracked the display, and thankfully I had insurance, so I replaced him, and this is now Josie, a nice white Galaxy Note 2. As a lot of you know, the Galaxy Note 2 was one of my all-time favorite phones that I ever had. This was just so awesome. It was one of the first times in a while that I saw Samsung release a phone that was not segmented. It had the Exynos processor on the international version and also on the United States version as well. It no longer had a pentile-type display. I thought that was fantastic. It had a crazy battery size, and the battery life for screen time was easily reaching 7 hours or so for me. So I loved this phone. This was just the most awesome thing. Just awesome sauce entirely. So of course, considering how much I loved the Galaxy Note 2, I was very excited to check out the Galaxy Note 3 and to see if it had that same magic for me as the Galaxy Note 2. And I'm going to be upfront with you all right away. So far, I am having very mixed feelings about the Galaxy Note 3. I think that there's a lot of nice features on here, but the first thing that is kind of making me sad inside is actually the display. I know there has been a lot of people praising the display on this phone, saying it's the greatest AMOLED display that they've ever seen, saying that they can't see that pentile-like matrix. It's considered a diamond matrix. It's exactly the same as on the Galaxy S4, except for it's at a lower pixel density because all they did basically was take a 5-inch screen with a very high pixel density. What was it, 441 pixels per inch? And they stretched it almost an inch more to 5.7 inches. So if you can imagine now, if all they did was just stretch that display higher, and now the pixel density is like 386 pixels per inch, to me it's looking more like pentile now, and that's not okay with me. If you're somebody who does not like pentile and is pretty sensitive to it, you might not be so impressed with the display on the Galaxy Note 3. I'm not going to lie to any of you. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. That's the one thing that's concerning me now, is the fact that they've just taken 441 pixels per inch and then stretched it up to 5.7 inches, and I'm not really liking the result. I'm actually going to be zooming in on a sub-pixel level so that you can see what I am talking about. I will look at a display that is of a line matrix RGB. Every pixel is supposed to have 3 subpixels. The thing with the diamond type matrix is that just like pentile, it's only got 2 subpixels per pixel. So what you end up seeing, if you're quite sensitive to it, is some black spaces in between those subpixels, and it gives it a feeling of lower resolution or even lowered pixel density. Now here side by side we have 2 magnified images of 2 different displays. On the left hand side is the Galaxy Note 3 and on the right hand side is the Z Ultra. The Galaxy Note 3 has a pixel density of 386 pixels per inch versus the Z Ultra with less at 344 pixels per inch. But still, because the Galaxy Note 3 only has 2 subpixels per pixel instead of 3, the Z Ultra with a lesser pixel density is actually sharper. Not only that, but with the diamond matrix you can see that there's some black spaces in between the pixels, especially along the bottom of this candy on the Note 3, versus on the Z Ultra, it just looks very uniform all over the place. I found this funny because I had my sister, who has no idea about anything with technology, look at 3 different screens, the Galaxy Note 2, the Galaxy Note 3, and the Z Ultra. What she said was the Galaxy Note 3, between all of them, looked like it had the least amount of pixels. So this isn't just something that is my own bias. This is something that people who have no idea anything about, if they were to take three displays and compare them side by side, you can definitely tell that the Note 3 just isn't as sharp. Now in this last comparative image, we have three different displays. On the left-hand side is the Galaxy Note 3, in the middle is the Xperia Z Ultra, and on the right-hand side is the Galaxy Note 2. What I can say about the Galaxy Note 3 is that it has the smallest subpixels of all of them, and you would think that that would give it a very high resolution. But the problem is, because it has that diamond type of arrangement, when you go to display something like red, all the other pixels are going to turn off besides the red, and you actually see more black space with this type of arrangement. So since they've taken the Galaxy S4 and taken 344 pixels per inch and just basically expanded it, now there's even more black space and it becomes very apparent here. So in this case, it doesn't matter how small the subpixels are, because they have just expanded the size of the display. There's more black spaces now, and when you're looking at certain colors like red, when the other subpixels turn off, you get a grainy looking image, unfortunately. I am still in the process of examining this display. In my full review, I'm going to also have some measurements so that you can see what the calibration is like. I'm going to be taking a couple different measurements. I will have one for standard mode, one for movie mode, one for dynamic mode, and also one for professional photo mode. So you'll have a chance to see what's really going on with the calibration, but I'm going to leave that for the full review. So to call this a true 1080p display is really not quite fair in comparison to one of the other LCD phones on the market. On the S4, I really had a hard time noticing that it was of a pentile-like matrix at all. While I could tell that it wasn't like the pixel density of some of the other phones on the market, it really passed for being very, very high resolution and 1080p. But Samsung, you're not fooling me with this. You really aren't. Now, as far as the look and feel of the device, I think that it looks quite nice. In appearance, it reminds me a lot of the Galaxy S4, except for, of course, it's not as rounded. In comparison to the Note 2, it's a tad thinner. It's also not as wide, but it is just a little bit taller. In hand, though, the weight to me feels about the same. Now, what I really like is this back cover. They're calling this faux leather, although it's not leather, it feels more like TPU. Or thermoplastic polyurethane. Feels like a very thin film of TPU on top of just a regular plastic back cover. Now it feels very grippy in the hand. I don't feel like it's going to slip out. I've had that problem with a lot of Samsung phones where I feel that they feel very slippery for me, especially because I have moist fingers. But you can see that it does still hold some smudges, and because it's textured, it's not all that easy to wipe those smudges off. But I do feel that this is a step above what we've had before in the past. On the back here, we have a 13 megapixel camera capable of 4K. That's awesome. While I'm going along this review process, I'm going to be taking several samples just to see how awesome this is. One thing though is when uploading 4K videos to YouTube is just going to destroy the appearance of them. I'm going to have to find another way to upload them so you can check out the resolution. From the samples I've taken so far in 4K, it looks incredible. To me, every frame looks like a high-resolution picture, so I am very excited about this particular feature. We've got a single LED flash here. On the top here, we have a standard headphone jack. We've got a microphone. We've also got an IR blaster so that you can use this guy with your TV like all of the current phones these days. You've got your power button. Right here, you've also got what seems to be another microphone, just a little pinhole there. We've got a stylus now that can be put in either way, so it doesn't matter. It's just plug and play in any direction. We've got a speaker along the bottom. A lot of people are complaining about this speaker, saying it does not sound as good as the Note 2's. I can agree. I do confirm that. But so far, I'm not hating it. It sounds very similar to all the other speakers that have been released in this generation of devices. We've got micro USB 3.0. This is something that's really bothering me right now. You're supposed to have faster data transfer speeds, and it's also supposed to charge a little bit faster as well. But I can only get the USB 3.0 to come up under Windows, so if you have a Mac computer, it looks like it's, for some reason, not even giving you the option for USB 3.0. And yes, I have a MacBook Pro that does have USB 3.0, so I'm hoping they expand this feature to more operating systems. I do have some Windows computers at home, so I'll have a chance to test this out over time. It is nice, though, that this is backward compatible with all my standard Android chargers. Just don't expect to use this crazy-looking contraption on anything else but the Note 3 right now. We've got another microphone here at the bottom, and on this side we have a volume rocker. One thing that I'm not really liking about the design are these ridges that we have here. A Samsung representative said that it's supposed to look like a notebook, like notebook pages, for example. The thing that I'm noticing is that it gets kind of grimy. I'm noticing that finger oils and things are getting stuck in those ridges, so I'm not such a fan of that. I really would prefer to have no ridges like we have on the Note 2, or that brushed aluminum type finish that we have on the Galaxy S4. On the front here, we have our notification LED. We've got our receiver. We've also got our proximity sensor and front-facing camera. One thing that a lot of people are complaining about is the home button at the bottom. They do protrude a little bit, and it seems that some of them kind of rock in place. They don't feel very solid or firm, but it's honestly not enough for me to go around trying to find one that doesn't have this issue. Inside of this guy, we have a 3,200 milliamp hour battery, up from the 3,100 milliamp hour battery that we had in the Note 2. I really do wish now, after seeing some preliminary results with the battery life, that they would have upped it to being a little bit more. I really don't want to speak about battery life at this point. I will be getting into more of that later, but it would have been really nice if they would have included a bigger battery in this puppy. I am enjoying that this phone now does have 32 gigabytes of internal storage, or it's about 25 gigabytes of internal storage that's usable. We have this stacked, interesting, non-spring-loaded appearance for both of your micro SD card and also your SIM. So really you're just pushing them out now instead of having the spring eject. We should also be having support for wireless charging or inductive charging. So far, I am really liking some of the new features with the S Pen. I was actually somebody who was a very big fan of the S Pen, as I like to draw and doodle and all those things. But yes, I feel that they've added some extra functionality, and there's some things that are just so cool that I really am liking and am very excited about. One thing that really bothered me on the LG G2 was that they had the Q-Slide applications, and while they had a Q-Slide application for texting that would come up as soon as you'd put your text in, the box would disappear. Well, there's actually a fully functional thing on here. Watch this. You just click this down. You're going to get your air command pop up. Now you're going to see pen window. Now with pen window, you just need to draw a square, arbitrary size. And it's going to give you a couple of options. You've got calculator, clock, YouTube, phone, contacts, Hangouts, and you've also got a web browser. So Hangouts, this is awesome. I do a lot of chatting online, and I'm just very excited that they implemented this well. Let's go ahead and click on Hangouts. I have a little sample with myself on another account, and what's just so awesome is that here we have this chat box. I can go about my business, and then I can minimize this. And you see it's got a little bubble here. I can stick that aside. One thing that I'm a big fan of is Candy Crush Saga. Where are you, Candy Crush Saga? So instead of having my game interrupted, I have my little chat bubble here. When I get a notification or if I'm ready to answer, I can go ahead and click on it. It opens up and I can answer right from here. I've got my full keyboard and everything. Then when I want to return to my game, I just need to click minimize and it's out of the way. So I love that. They did a very good job implementing this. Thank you. Another thing that I find to be quite useful is the action memo. I'm a person who likes to physically write things down. Just say that I'm talking on the phone and somebody gives me a phone number or an address. Let's see if even with my crazy handwriting, if this can recognize this. But basically, you're supposed to be able to select link to action. It should select what I've written, and let's go ahead and try to call that. And indeed, it didn't have any issue recognizing even my terrible handwriting. I like that the action memo is minimized so I can get right back into it when I'm finished. This also works very well for addresses. I'm quite surprised with how well they have the handwriting recognition working. So you've got an option for phone, contacts, messaging, email. You can search for this number in the browser. This is great for map locations, and you can also save it under tasks. So yay, we've got some useful features. My last favorite one is Scrapbooker, although the first thing that you need to do right now until they fix this is you need to go under YouTube, under your applications, and uninstall updates because it breaks the feature for being able to save YouTube videos inside of your scrapbook. So I went and uninstalled the updates and it should be working fine now. So here I am inside of a YouTube video inside the YouTube app, and I can simply just circle the YouTube video that I am watching. and it saves it as a playable video inside of my scrapbook for me. Then I can create a category which I'm going to be calling duct tape wallets, because that's actually the new thing that I am working on. I'm making a Ninja Turtles duct tape wallet because I'm cool like that. So you can see I put it underneath a category called duct tape wallets. I can add a memo, cool trifold, check mark, and you can see that I've got it all written here. So complete. So you can see in my little entry that you have the actual YouTube video now playing. I find this to be incredibly crafty. Good job, Samsung. This is very nice. I just hope that the updated YouTube application works well with this soon, because it's really sad to not have this feature. Of course, I can also go to web pages and circle portions of what I'm interested in. Let's just say I want this whole page. It doesn't seem to save the entire web page. It seems to only save the portion that's on the screen right here. And it limits you to 3,000 characters, so everything else it just puts in text for you. But it ends in a random spot. You can see it was supposed to be Word or something. So you are limited to how much you can save inside of each scrapbook entry. But the nice thing is that I do have an active link up here. So at any point I can go ahead and click on the link, and it's going to open it inside of the web browser for me. And I can go right back and look at the page of interest. I'm a person who does a lot of arts and crafts. I also do lots of research. Even though I'm graduated from university, I'm always liking to learn things. So I find it very nice that I can get everything from the internet and consolidate it into tiny projects that are saved inside of Scrapbooker. So I think a lot of people are really going to love this feature. Now with this pen here, I really like that I have the ability to use the capacitive buttons with the pen as well. So I can hit my menu button, and I can also hit the back button. So indeed, the pen is now considered a fully integrated part of this system. Now while Samsung has added a lot of really cool stuff inside of here, including all of the air gestures that you could do with the Galaxy S4 if that's something you fancy, they have added some things that I don't really like so much. For example, one of the most annoying things that they have added here is called My Magazine. So just say that you are on the front screen here. This will be the front home screen of your launcher. If you swipe upward from the bottom, it's going to bring this weird news feed. This is Samsung's answer to Blink Feed, although it's really not nice at all. It's ugly, it's lackadaisical, and I wish they really wouldn't have included it at all. So when hitting the menu button here, we are presented with news, personal, here and now, and social. Like I said, the idea is that it's supposed to operate a lot like Blink Feed or Flipboard. Now when you go underneath news, you have several different things you can select. So you've got technology, business, design, photography, games, just say you like all those things. Now one thing that I notice here is that I can't access anything by hitting the home button. So what I'm seeing here is as is. Technology, for example, doesn't let me choose blogs like The Verge or Engadget. It actually has a consolidated amount of blogs that's in it by itself. You can't choose which ones you want to receive news from. So if you don't want to be receiving news about Mac, too bad. So if I go back outward, it has all these various news feeds that I was not able to choose from. So for me, it's more or less random news. Not only that, but they mix everything all together for news. You can't go categorically and choose to have only technology, unless you go back under news and deselect everything but technology. So I find this to be very poorly designed, but if you want to have access to your own personal email and gallery, as well as a bunch of different social networking sites, you might like this, but I think it's a very poor rendition for Flipboard. At least Samsung tries to make it functional though, because you do have a drop-down arrow. When you hit on this drop-down arrow, you can get to your phone, camera, email, Google Now, and also your app tray, so it looks like Samsung wants you to spend a lot of time within My Magazine, doesn't it? I think that the most disturbing thing was that by default, they have this application opening with the home key. So I'm going to select this just to show you what I'm talking about. So if you are on your main home screen for the launcher again, if you are to hit the home button, by default it's going to pull up the My Magazine. In the beginning I was freaking out. I kept touching the home button and not realizing what this was. Like, what is this? What's going on here? I'm not doing anything special. And then I found out that I actually had to set this up, agree to all the terms and conditions, then I could go into settings, and then I could turn this off. So now it's no longer affecting my home button. So Samsung, I am not very happy with the adware or bloatware here. Now of course my first reaction was, oh okay, I'll just go and disable it. Well, when you go underneath My Magazine, you can see that the turn off button or the disable button isn't there. So Samsung is forcing you to use this as part of their launcher, and I'm not approving of that at all. Please don't be like HTC Samsung and force us to look at some garbage that you created that doesn't work well. So yes, you can disable it from bothering you at the home button, but it's always going to be there from swiping up at the bottom. So make your peace with it, find something that can be particularly useful for you because it ain't going anywhere. They've also replaced the Google search when you hold down on the menu button. Instead, it brings up their S Finder, which you can also bring up with the pen. It's a universal system search. It looks through everything from your applications to your emails to anything that was on the phone. You can also choose different time periods, past 30 days, past 7 days, so it's very nice that you do have this feature here. You can also search the web here if it doesn't find your entry, but I can see that Samsung is skinning some of their own features over what was already here. You may be annoyed by that, or you might appreciate it. I was a little bit off-put. But at least it's a feature that works well, so I can't be too upset. Now, in order to keep the system running smoothly with some of the cool features that I have shown you, this guy has about 3 gigabytes of RAM. That's impressive over the 2 gigabytes of RAM that everybody else has right now. So of course I'm able to use many of the features at the exact same time. We can have Action Memo and Pen Window applications running without this guy ever skipping a beat. Also, as many of you may know, this has got the Snapdragon S800 SoC. We've got 4 Crate cores. This is the higher bin 2.3 GHz version. So this phone is blazing fast, although I do see the slight stutter once in a while with this launcher. It seems that Samsung isn't so great at making launchers that are perfectly smooth without any jank or issues, so of course you're free to choose another launcher, but everything in this phone is incredibly fast. I don't know how well benchmarks are going to prove anything because Samsung does cheat a little bit, but I'm going to be fully using this and seeing how I feel compared to other things like the G2 and the Z Ultra, which also have the S800 SoC inside of them. Also, it's got the Adreno 330 GPU. One thing I'm noticing already with gameplay is that this guy is getting quite warm. This guy is getting a little bit warmer than I noticed with the G2. I'm really hoping that we don't have a repeat with the Galaxy S4, where the Galaxy S4 got very blisteringly hot during gameplay, so I'm going to be watching out for that. A moment ago, I was talking about my frustrations that I was having with this new My Magazine, which you can only access, since I have turned it off from the home button, from the front launcher screen. You won't be able to access it from pulling up anywhere else, but underneath my application manager, you can see that I have all kinds of stuff that I have turned off. I've been irritated because I see a lot of bloatware on this phone, whether it's from T-Mobile or things from Samsung that I just don't like. Your options would be to root the phone and to de-bloat this thing and get rid of all the things that you don't want on here, or if you have a version with an unlocked bootloader, you can very well go ahead and flash a custom ROM onto here. That's one of the great joys of having Android, is that you're not confined to having it in one solid state. You do have the freedom to delete things, you do have the freedom to customize, but I feel that Samsung is making that a little bit harder. Since I can remember, if you root your phone, in some markets it can void your warranty if you do have a flash counter that ends up going up. Now, developers were able to go in and reset that counter, but Samsung has finally fixed that, and they have created what we're calling an eFuse. So if you are to root this guy and to flash a custom firmware onto here, it's going to set the Knox flash flag to 1. So for some markets, that's supposed to void your warranty. Some carriers can ask to have the warranty voided if you went and rooted your phone or did anything to customize it. So that's a bummer for some people, and a lot of people are freaking out. But heck, I don't care. And if you're somebody who really wants to have a phone that's full of freedom, you can either avoid this guy or you can get a Nexus, honestly. I'm curious if there's any solutions to this eFuse thing, or if I'm going to have to get myself some insurance in case anything happens to my phone. Either way, I'm not going to let that scare me. I'm going to do as I wish with my phone. One other thing that people are feeling pretty sour about is the region unlocking. Supposedly, if you have a phone from the gray market and you import it to a country that it's not meant to be activated on, you can pretty much lock your phone down. But as long as you activate it inside the region it's meant for, then you can take it somewhere else. I think that's a dick move, Samsung. You're really not going to prevent people from importing any phone version that they want and using it as they please. You're just making it harder on people and making yourself look like a dick. Now, checking under the settings, we do have all the features that are carried over from the Galaxy S4. You've got Air Gesture, which includes the Quick Glance feature. You get a very small pop-up view of everything from the time to missed calls to battery life to emails. You've got air jump, scroll through web pages in screen-sized jumps. You've got air browse, move between pictures, pages, or music tracks. And you've also got air call, so you can accept a call by simply moving your hand over the sensor. You've got air view, where you can hover your finger or the pen over something and it will give you a little bit of a preview of what's going on with that. You've got air command, which I showed you a little bit with the pen. You've got several different motions, palm motions, smart screen, which includes the familiar smart stay, smart rotation, and also the new feature smart pause from the Galaxy S4 and smart scroll. So you've got a ton of features on this phone. Some people would call them gimmicks, some people would call them practical, but with the processors that this guy has, the amount of RAM that this guy has, this is an incredibly powerful phone. And I'm going to spend a lot of time with it checking it out. My overall feeling of this phone is positive, except for I'm not so fond of the screen because of that pentile-like matrix. Yes, it's not pentile in the common sense, but it's very pentile-like, and to me, it looks like pentile. So if you guys have any questions or comments, please type them below in the comments section. I will be doing the hour-long review to this phone. I will spend some good quality time with this. Have a good night, everybody!